Hi everyone, today we are talking about 10 amazing things about one of everybody's favorite rocks, and that's obsidian. Hi, I am Tracy Diane, the creator of Mini-Me Geology and the Rock Detectives Club and the author at Tracy Diane Books. If you love rocks and stories as much as I do, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Number one on our list is that obsidian is volcanic. It's made typically from rhyolitic magmas in volcanoes, and all that means is that it's rich in silica. When those volcanoes erupt and the lava comes out, obsidian will form and cool around the edges of the lava flow. Some famous examples of this are in Italy and in Iceland and in Yellowstone National Park in the United States. Number two on the list is that obsidian is actually a volcanic glass. If you look at this sample that I have here, it's black and shiny. You can't see any mineral crystals because there aren't any. It's actually a glass that forms when the eruption occurs. The cooling lava cools so quickly that there's no time for mineral grains to form. So while this rock here, obsidian, will have a lot of the same mineral content as, say, a granite, because it cools so fast, there's just no time for mineral crystals to form, and it forms this beautiful volcanic glass. All right, number three on our list is that obsidian is actually not always black. While it typically is this beautiful dark black color, you can actually find some that are called snowflake obsidian, like this one here, that actually has white speckles against the black background. There's also something called a mahogany obsidian, which is kind of a reddish brown color. And there's also something called rainbow obsidian that has a shimmer of colors across the surface. Number four on our list is that obsidian was used as prehistoric tools. Long before metal tools existed, humans discovered that obsidian samples can actually be chipped into very sharp points and have very sharp edges along long surfaces. It can even be sharper than surgical steel. Archaeologists find obsidian blades and arrowheads all around the world. In fact, the edges of obsidian rocks can be so sharp that surgeons could use them in place of metal scalpels. Number five on the list is that while obsidian can actually look like a mineral while it's a rock, it's also technically classified as a mineraloid. Now, the difference between a mineral and a mineraloid is that a mineral has a very ordered atomic structure, and in a mineraloid, the atoms are all jumbled and disorganized, and that's what gives obsidian the glassy look. It's this disorder in the structure that gives obsidian the really smooth surface and the shiny luster, and it also gives it something called a conchoidal fracture. When you actually break a piece of obsidian, if you can see in the camera right here, it looks like there's sort of a spiral pattern on the top of the rock itself, and that is called the conchoidal fracture, and it happens when it's broken. And on samples like this, it almost looks like a shell on the outside, but it's actually just the way that the fracture pattern works on some sort of glassy material like this. And you can actually see it, like if you broke a window pane, you're going to see that same type of conchoidal fracture on the edges of that break as well. Number six on our list is that obsidian is actually really useful to archaeologists because it can be used to trace ancient trade routes. Every obsidian sample has its own sort of unique chemical fingerprint because volcanoes around the world all have slightly different magma mixtures. So archaeologists can test these rock samples and figure out where they came from, and then they can use that information to trace ancient trade routes across hundreds or even thousands of miles. So obsidian isn't just a rock, it's kind of like a historical GPS. Number seven on the list is that while obsidian looks like a strong rock, it's actually kind of fragile and pretty dangerous too. Despite its beauty and its natural strength, obsidian is actually very brittle. It fractures really easily if you drop it or if you hit it with a hammer, and it will form those razor sharp points and edges, and it's really easy to cut yourself on an obsidian if you're not careful. So if you have some of these in your collection and you actually want to break them into smaller pieces, if you're going to chip them apart with a rock hammer, make sure that you're wearing safety glasses. And I would also say wrap them up in a towel before you hit them. That way, when they do break, you can check them for sharp edges before you just grab them. And Also, it will create a lot of very small shards coming off a strike if you hit it with a hammer, and you don't want those flying up into your face or on your bare skin because it definitely will cut you. Number 8 on the list is that obsidian will actually change over time, unlike a lot of rocks. So obsidian doesn't last forever. Over the course of thousands of years, it will go through a process called devitrification, and that means that the glassy structure will start to form crystals. And if you look at this sample here, you can see that big white almost dot in the center of it. Or in this one, you can see that there's a lot of white on the sample. Those are actually small mineral crystals that are forming because this rock has been decaying sort of over time. And this particular rock is called snowflake obsidian. So if you see a snowflake obsidian, you can actually see ones that are like this where they're just starting their devitrification process. So you've got, random small patches of the white. This one is much farther along in the process and it's almost completely covered in the white crystals. So if you see that, it's a hint that the rock is actually starting to break down and form a beautiful snowflake obsidian. Now, number 9 on our list is that obsidian can reflect light like magic. Because obsidian is a glass, it can react with light in fascinating ways. When you have a really thin edge of an obsidian sample, the light can scatter, giving some iridescent effects. And that's what you see like with rainbow obsidians. You can see shades of greens and purples and golds shimmering across the edges of the samples. The pieces that do this are really interesting for collectors because they have a really beautiful effect if you turn them into jewelry or some home decor item. Some of the best samples are the rainbow obsidians in Mexico. And number 10 on our list is that obsidian can be found around the world. Obsidian can be found anywhere volcanoes erupted with a silica-rich lava. In the United States, you can often find great samples in the Yellowstone National Park, around the Newberry volcano in Oregon, and even in parts of California, Arizona, and New Mexico. If you go out rock hunting, just make sure that where you go, you're allowed to collect the samples because some of the sites are protected. And there you have it, 10 things that everybody should know about your favorite rock, obsidian, where it connects geology to the world. So if you ever hold a piece of obsidian, remember that it's more than just a rock. It's a frozen moment in a volcanic eruption that's captured forever in this beautiful black glass. So if you enjoyed learning about obsidian, hit that like button. I hope you subscribe to us for more geology goodness. And I'd love to hear in the comments if you have your own samples of a beautiful obsidian rock. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring our world one rock at a time.